Is it possible for a country, once crippled by an oppressive regime, to rise and become a significant player in the global economy? Today we dive deep into South Africa's economic journey. Let's start with apartheid, a system of institutionalized racial segregation that reigned in South Africa from 1948 to 1994. This was more than just a social disaster, it was an economic catastrophe. The apartheid regime constructed an economy that was designed to favor the minority white population at the expense of the majority black inhabitants. Under apartheid, the social and economic segregation was profound. The white minority had access to the best jobs, the best education, and the best land. On the flip side, the black majority was consigned to low-wage labor, inferior education, and limited land ownership. This created a skewed economic structure that was not just unfair, but also unsustainable. In addition to the internal imbalances, there were external pressures as well. The international community largely condemned apartheid, and this led to a slew of sanctions against South Africa. These sanctions severely limited foreign investment and trade, further straining an already struggling economy. The economic implications of apartheid were far-reaching. South Africa's GDP per capita, a measure of economic performance, was stagnant for much of the apartheid era. The country's economy was unable to grow and thrive due to the oppressive policies in place. The economic disparity between the white and black populations grew wider and wider, creating a volatile and unstable economic environment. The apartheid regime left an indelible mark on South Africa's economy. It created an economic system that was fundamentally flawed and deeply divided along racial lines. The majority of the country's wealth was concentrated in the hands of a small white minority, leaving the vast majority of the population impoverished and disenfranchised. As we've seen, apartheid severely hampered South Africa's economic growth and development. But how did the country begin to turn things around? With the end of apartheid in 1994, South Africa embarked on a path of economic reform. But what were these changes, and how did they impact the country's economy? South Africa's post-apartheid economic reforms were built on three main pillars: the introduction of free market policies, attempts to redress economic inequalities, and the opening up of the country's economy to the world. Firstly, South Africa bid farewell to the rigid, state-controlled economic system of the past and welcomed free market policies. By embracing capitalism, the country stimulated private sector growth and entrepreneurship. It was a bold move that paid off. The economy began to flourish, and South Africa saw a period of sustained economic growth. Next, the government took steps to redress the economic inequalities that were a legacy of apartheid. This was a challenging task, requiring careful balancing of economic growth with social justice. The government introduced policies aimed at improving the living standards of the majority black population. These included housing programs, improved access to basic services, and measures to increase black participation in the economy. But perhaps the most significant reform was opening up South Africa's economy to the world. For many years, the country had been isolated due to international sanctions imposed during the apartheid era. Now, it was ready to invite the world in. South Africa became a beacon for foreign investment, and its economy integrated into the global market. The results of these reforms were impressive. South Africa emerged as the largest economy in Africa, a position it held until the mid-2010s. The country saw its gross domestic product grow by an average of 3% per annum between 1994 and 2007, and millions were lifted out of poverty. Post-apartheid reforms brought about significant economic growth, but it's not been a smooth ride. Let's examine the challenges that South Africa has faced. In the next scene, we'll delve into the complexities and setbacks that have marked South Africa's economic journey and how the nation continues to navigate these waters. Stay with us. Despite significant strides since apartheid, South Africa's economy is not without its challenges. Today we delve into the hurdles this nation continues to face. In the wake of transformation, South Africa grapples with a myriad of economic challenges. At the forefront, the high unemployment rate stands as a stark reminder of the work that still needs to be done. With over a quarter of its workforce unemployed, South Africa's economic growth potential remains significantly untapped. Inequality, another deeply rooted issue, hampers economic progress. The gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen, with the top 10% of households accounting for over half of the nation's total income. This stark wealth disparity is a legacy of the apartheid era and continues to strain social harmony and economic growth. Let's not forget about corruption, a pervasive problem that affects many economies globally, but is particularly pronounced in South Africa. From public sector fraud to corporate embezzlement, corruption drains vital resources, undermines trust, and hinders economic development. Lastly, the impact of global economic trends cannot be overlooked. As a developing nation, South Africa is vulnerable to fluctuations in global markets. The recent downturn in commodity prices, for instance, has hit the nation's mining industry hard, leading to job losses and decreased economic output. But all is not doom and gloom. Acknowledging these challenges is the first step towards overcoming them. The South African government, in collaboration with the private sector, is actively addressing these issues. In response to the high unemployment rate, for instance, initiatives have been launched to stimulate job creation, particularly for the youth. These include skills development programs, entrepreneurship encouragement, and investment in sectors with high employment potential. To tackle inequality, efforts are being made to improve access to quality education and healthcare, and to implement progressive taxation. The government is also prioritizing land reform, a contentious issue that is critical to addressing historical injustices and promoting economic inclusion. In fighting corruption, the government has strengthened its law enforcement agencies and is promoting transparency and accountability in public institutions. Additionally, businesses are being encouraged to adopt ethical practices and to foster a culture of integrity. And as for the impact of global economic trends, South Africa is diversifying its economy to reduce reliance on commodities. This includes promoting sectors like tourism, manufacturing, and information technology, which are less vulnerable to global market fluctuations. South Africa's economic journey is far from over. With numerous challenges on the horizon, how will this nation continue to shape its economic future? The answer lies in the country's resilience, its commitment to reform, and its determination to rise above the storm. South Africa's story is one of courage and perseverance, and while the path may be fraught with obstacles, the nation is steadfast in its journey towards economic prosperity. South Africa's economic journey, from the dark days of apartheid to its current challenges, is a testament to the resilience and potential of this nation. Let's take a moment to look back at the road we've traveled together through this video. Our journey began in the era of apartheid, a time when the South African economy was shackled by oppressive policies that not only divided the nation, but also crippled its economic potential. The exclusion of the majority of the population from active economic participation led to a stagnant economy that was characterized by high levels of inequality and poverty. But then came the dawn of a new era. Post-apartheid, reforms were implemented, and the country began to chart a new economic course. These reforms aimed at creating an inclusive economy that left no one behind. The government sought to dismantle the economic structures of apartheid and to create an environment where every citizen could contribute to and benefit from the nation's economic growth. And indeed, these efforts bore fruit as the country began to see improvements in economic indicators and a reduction in inequality. But the journey hasn't been all smooth sailing. Today, South Africa faces a number of challenges that threaten to derail its economic progress. High unemployment rates, particularly among the youth, continue to be a thorn in the country's side. Economic inequality, while reduced, still remains a significant issue. And the nation's economy is also confronted with external challenges such as fluctuating global commodity prices and the impacts of climate change. Yet, despite these hurdles, South Africa continues to forge ahead. And this is where the true potential of this nation lies. It's in its resilience, in its ability to rise above the storm, and in its commitment to creating a prosperous and inclusive economy. The nation has shown time and again that it is not defined by its challenges, but rather by its ability to overcome them. Looking forward, there's a sense of optimism about South Africa's economic future. The nation is rich in natural resources, has a vibrant and diverse culture, and a young and dynamic population that is eager to contribute to its economic development. These are the ingredients for a thriving, resilient economy. The journey of South Africa's economic rise is far from over. It's a journey that is marked by both triumphs and challenges. But as the nation continues to navigate its economic path, one thing is clear. This nation is not defined by its past, but by its potential for the future. Thanks for joining us in this exploration of South Africa's economic rise. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Mr. Explainer for more enlightening content.